This interview is brought to you by my sponsors, which give you a great option for wine or coffee or tea while you watch my interviews. If you want to go to AllisonWinePromo.com, you'll get 50% off of my favorite Malbecs from Argentina and 50% off shipping. These are high altitude Malbecs from very remote regions of Argentina. One comes from almost 9,000 feet. Another one uses natural fermentation, and another one is from a very small operation where they handpick the grapes. All very unique. It goes into the flavor, very robust wines, great for grilling season for the summer. So go get yourself some AllisonWinePromo.com. However, if you prefer coffee or tea because you're watching my interviews and you're like, I can't believe they just said that, then you should go to TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison. Get yourself a high altitude Nicaraguan roast. There are high altitude dark roast and high altitude light roast, and even a high altitude tea. If you're a tea drinker, you can get the Caturra tea. It's a tea that you make from the coffee fruit. I like to cold brew mine, but you can hot brew it like normal tea if you like that as well. Check out my sponsors, and let's get on with the video. Christina is back, writes under the pen name Radix Verum, and does a lot of reporting on some sensitive topics. I guess sensitive would probably be an understatement. January 6th, Michigan, Governor Whitmer kidnapping plot trials, and recently was banned from PayPal. So we're going to talk about that. So Christina, let's do pull up the screenshot you got here. You can no longer do business with PayPal. And they're saying that you're in violation of their acceptable use policy. So what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that I recently did 2 interviews, and like the very next day I got that email from PayPal that I had violated their acceptable use policy. And so I went and looked at like, well, what is their acceptable use policy? What does it say? Because I know I haven't done anything wrong. And it seems to be like for fraudulent activity or something like that, that's what I'm being accused of. But I think that we all know that's not what it is. You know, it's a way to kind of just deplatform people that they don't like. So I'm thinking that the reporting that I did, the interviews I did, the people I talked to has ruffled some feathers. People don't like it. And I think that someone probably mass flagged my account or something to get it shut down.
So I think you can talk about, as long as, I think since the first portion that we're putting on YouTube is where we have to kind of watch what we're talking about. I do think you can say the name, like you interviewed Ashley Babbitt's mom, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And she was killed in the January 6th Capitol events. Which we're still, I still don't really know what to call it, honestly, because I think like a lot of people, I have very serious questions about government involvement and what happened that day. And so I don't know what to call it, but yeah. So she was killed, shot by a police officer. And so you interview your mom because she's been outside the jail in DC, and we'll talk about that off of YouTube on the other platforms. And then who was the other person that you interviewed?
Brandon Caserta. So he was one of the 2 defendants that was just recently acquitted in the Whitmer kidnapping case. So I interviewed him on my YouTube channel. Pretty interesting interview. But yeah, when you go up against the federal government and you embarrass them and make them look bad, I guess people don't like that, you know, especially the government.
So are these both on your Substack account right now?
They're not, but I will be adding it soon. I also just created a locals page, and I'm going to be putting both of them there now. I actually have already uploaded my interview with Brandon. I think it's still processing, but it will be there. And I will include the interview with Ashley Babbitt's mom there. I'm going to be doing another interview with her, a sit-down interview with her this week. And that should be kind of a longer form one that hopefully, if people are interested in hearing about Ashley, you can learn more about her and what her mom is doing and why.
Okay, so you hadn't posted them, so it seems like, it seems like if PayPal would have to, and not to necessarily say they're not doing this, I don't know, but they would be like monitoring where you're going and who you're talking to because you haven't posted it publicly yet. So maybe it wasn't those particular interviews. You think it's just maybe what led up to those interviews, like the other work that we've already discussed. I mean, I don't know. What do you think was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Well, I did post the interview with Brandon on my YouTube channel. I'm going to take it down. It's on there now, but I'm thinking I should probably remove it now that I have it uploading on Locals. And my interview with Ashley Babbitt's mother is up on my ODYSEE page. So it's possible that somebody came across it, saw it, didn't like it, and decided to just flag my, report my PayPal. And I've gotten those threats before by certain groups of activists that really don't like my work. They've done it in the past. They've said that they had contacted PayPal about having me removed, but nothing happened. And that was like a month ago. So I just assumed that they didn't even bother. They were just like, just making idle threats in my channel, commentary.
How are you finding these people? I mean, how do you get in touch with them? And then
that's a good question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I don't know if you could say fortunate, but I live in the Northern Virginia area. So to meet Ashley Babbitt's mother, I saw that she's going to be in the area. She's here every day for the month of August. So she's down at the DC Gulag. That's what we're referring to it as. It's the correctional treatment facility in Washington, DC, where many of the January 6th defendants are currently being housed. So she's there every day outside from 7 to 9, about 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So I just went and showed up, and that's how I met her. With the Whitmer case, I've actually been following it and reporting on it for a really long time, since October of 2020, when the news of it first broke. I've written over 20 articles about it, and I just reached out to the lawyers in the case, and I told them that I was, going to be traveling to Michigan to cover the verdict and the retrial, and I wanted to talk to people. So,
okay. One of the things that PayPal says is that you're going to be refunded your money in 180 days. I know, having had other folks like Ryan Christian on, who was his account was banned, or permanently limited, whatever they're correct.
What do they call it? Yeah.
And he never got his money. So I doubt you see your money. What do you think about that? I mean, it seems like it's like maybe they're refunding it to people. I don't really know what's happening behind the scenes, but I guess you're curious about your thoughts on they're just like locking it while you have a balance.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I didn't have a lot in there, to be fair. I had like $220. People were funding my trip to Michigan. Then I already have plane tickets and a place to stay. So, at least I have that. But yeah, they say that they're going to hold the funds for like 180 days. And then they say they may refund it. So it's very like vague. You don't know if they're going to or not. I don't know if people are going to get refunded at all, but I think that they probably just going to keep the money. I don't think they really care. PayPal doesn't seem to have a problem with like deplatforming people who do journalistic work, as you just mentioned, Ryan at TLAV. So I think that I think it's really sad, and they're not the only person doing this. DLive has done this to other people also, where they're like a streaming platform, and people can, I think, set up like monthly subscribers, like they can become monthly subscribers. So their credit card would automatically be billed for a certain amount each month. And they were demonetizing channels, but still charging the people that had signed up to support the content creator and the journalist or whatever, certain amount each month. They were charging people for like a year in some cases, after they had demonetized a channel. So the content creator didn't get that money at all. And I think that that's just kind of crazy. It's really sad. And I think that it says a lot about the current state of the world that we're living in.
Yeah. And do you have any thoughts? Like, people have different opinions on this, but do you have any thoughts on who you feel like would legitimately face a ban from a service like PayPal, or do you feel like everybody should be able to have access to it? I'm just curious where you stand on that. When do you think that PayPal would be in the right to say, hey, you can't use our service?
I think if people were engaging in fraudulent activity, like selling stolen goods or something like that, obviously that's not acceptable. Um, but I don't think it's appropriate for people engaged in journalism to have their accounts shut down. I mean, people will make the argument that like, well, PayPal's a private company, they should be able to choose who they do business with. And that's always the argument until, the government steps in and they're now directing private companies and telling them what they can and can't do. So that argument, we hear like private companies should be able to do whatever they want on the one hand, but then if a private company does something that the government doesn't like and certain people don't like, they don't have a problem with the government coming in and like regulating or restricting what private businesses can do and trying to shut down private businesses. So I guess just, fraudulent activity or something like that. I think regular people should be allowed to use this. And it's a hard thing to talk about. I guess it's a big topic, I'm sure there's nuance there. You don't want to tell private companies what they can and can't do, but at a certain point, these big tech platforms have become sort of like utilities, right? That so many people use and are dependent on. But I think that one of the things that they have said lately that I find interesting is they say you can have freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean freedom of reach. So they're basically saying you can say whatever you want, go ahead, but you're going to be confined to a small corner on the fringes of the internet, and you're not going to be allowed to use these bigger platforms. So that's the new thing that they're saying now. They're not just openly saying, yeah, we're going to censor people. Now it's, oh, well, you can have freedom of speech, but you're going to be on these like fringe platforms where no one can find you and you can't really make a living doing what you're doing.
So this is your locals page and people can go join you on locals. You're new there, but already have some content up. And if they want to support your work, they can go there again, radixverum.locals.com. I tell people again, like to go to my locals because it's just an easier way to have two-way communication. Like you can post stuff, I can post stuff, and I can hear feedback from you. I have an editorial board meeting every Saturday where I get feedback from people. And I think if people want to dig into more of the stuff you're talking about, then this would be a great way. And hopefully you won't get banned. I haven't gotten banned yet.
Yeah.
But we're having to find new ways to do this stuff because I feel like it's never going to end. I mean, I don't know. I hope local stays what it is. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess my theory and my recommendation for myself and everybody is just always be on your toes and have a backup plan, because as you learn with PayPal, I mean, if you had all your eggs in the PayPal basket, you just never know. All right. Well, I think since we're going to delve into January 6th, we're going to cut the stream on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this is where it ends. Go follow the yellow brick road on my other platforms. The links are in the description.